Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Aussie Starcraft. We've been casting games from the group stages of Dreamhack Winter that took place very recently. We are of course casting a game from the Group B stage at the moment. In the bottom right hand corner it is EGJYP as our red Protoss player. In the top left hand corner is our blue Terran player. It is Acer's MMA. So this is going to be a Protoss vs Terran matchup on Acheron Waste. Now, of course, MMA having a great year this year in Starcraft 2 has did see a lot of success. Won Season 3 of Europe, if I'm not mistaken. The WCS Season 3 Europe also did very well at DreamHack Bucharest earlier on in the year. So MMA having a great year and in fine fighting form. This game is actually game 3 in a best of 3 series between MMA and JYP. So obviously JYP in fine form himself. This game will be the deciding matchup, so we'll be keen to see what these players break out for us today. Of course, there have been some Protoss changes in the patch recently that may influence the decisions that both these players go for. Of course, things like the Oracle are absolutely terrifying now. Movement speed of 4, it's quite zippy. We'll see, in fact, this probe moving suspiciously into the middle of the map. I wonder if we are going to see some sort of proxy Stargate somewhere. We have JYP carefully microing this probe out of the regular sort of line of advance you'd expect a scouting SCV to take. Gateway on the way to gas is always a good sign of some Protoss shenanigans, and I'm always in favour of some Protoss shenanigans. Looks like he may actually hide the proxy Stargate up here on the high ground, which definitely an interesting choice here. Is SCV going to be moving out, going to completely miss this pylon that's being established? Now, of course, I am jumping to the conclusion that it's proxy Stargate, but if you've seen Oracles in the post-patch environment, they are quite terrifying. This SCV actually going to throw down a supply depot and cut off the probe before it can escape, so a nice little pickup for MMA. Going to be scouting out. He's going to be able to see how much gas has been mined here. Have a cybernetics core on the way. We don't actually have another probe going out, so this could just be a forward pylon being established, so maybe wrong on the Stargate count, maybe not. We will see. We have another probe moving out here, trying to sneak out. In fact, there... Oh, might just be a straight up expansion for JYP. Pardon me, just had something caught in my throat. It's JYP going to be dancing here, trying to get his Nexus down as quick as he can, deciding he'll throw down, he'll grab his warp gate research, and his mothership core is now on the way. Going to get that Nexus down finally, so looks like we may not in fact be seeing any proxy Stargate play, but the pylon certainly well established here in the center of the map. Have a reactor now in the factory, second command center on the way for MMA, and factory also coming up now. So it looks like both our players situating themselves for a nice macro game here. Looks like we actually may see early Templar attack. We have a Twilight Council on the way. Is definitely quite quick for a Twilight Council, but you know, I've predicted and been wrong once already. I'm a little bit hesitant to continue to make predictions, but we could well see some Dark Templar tech follow us out, and see JYP being very careful to try and prevent this SCV from scouting out up into his base location. Mothership core fixed there, making sure that SCV won't be able to sneak in. Stalker now here as well, so all that this SCV is going to see is that this Nexus being finished. Though MMA's own orbital command now coming up for his expansion, we can expect to see this lift off momentarily, or certainly as soon as we get some defense in place. We can see that MMA not waiting for the grass to grow, is going to be moving out across the map with these Marines and Widow Mine. Though this nice location for the pylon is actually spotting this force moving out. And there's only a few Stalkers and a Mothership actually here to deal with this. You can see the Stalkers moving out. They want to get a try and get a little bit of damage on these Marines before the Marines actually can make it to the ramp, and do a nice job of damaging that Widow Mine down. The Widow Mine, of course, possibly a little bit premature on that Photon Overcharge. Generally like to wait till the force is committed. This Widow Mine obviously a big threat to these Stalkers. If they stray within range, it will instant kill a Stalker. Very cost-effective way to pluck off a few Stalkers. We have a Robo on the way now, probably for an Observer to prevent those Widow Mines from being too much of a problem. This Pylon is going to go down in the middle of the map, which won't supply block JYP, but is going to force him to have to throw some more out. A few more Stalkers now on the way, and more pylons being established by JYP, so he is relentless to try and keep these forward pylons established for his counterattacks. Definitely a healthy choice for a Protoss player. Always nice to be able to warp in a few Zealots and harass your unwary opponents. Obviously MMA worried about the potential for Dark Templar play, has thrown down a missile turret at his door. Doesn't want any sneaky Dark Templar making their way into the fold. Another one going up in his main base. Will keep his mineral lines fairly safe. A Widow Mine here will do quite a substantial amount of damage to any Cloak DT that gets spotted by the missile turret. So both our players managing to stabilise quite nicely here. A few more sentries that have been warped in for JYP, and as of yet nothing in particular out of the Robo facility, just an Observer, and though we do have Blink finished up in the Twilight Council, so is potential for some Blink Stalker harass, but we'll see if any of that eventuates. And we're actually electing to go for a Siege Tank, which is interesting. You don't often see Siege Tanks as a choice versus Protoss. They are hard countered by things like the Immortal and the Blink Stalker, so not always a popular choice, but it looks like MMA has just produced the single Siege Tank for defensive purposes and is now putting his tech lab back on his barracks, so we'll likely see Combat Shield on the way any moment now. Round out the Terran Bio upgrades, plus on weapons also on the way. Though we do have all these Blink Stalkers moving into a position, and is there an Observer handy? I imagine there's one moving out somewhere. Here's the Observer. That's going to put these in a great position to be able to harass or even blink straight into the main base. So it could be quite annoying for MMA to try and deal with. But it's not too large a quantity of Blink Stalkers, just the 6. So things like these Marauders will make short work of these Stalkers if he's not careful. Well, quite a few Marines in place here, and the Marauder swinging in from the low ground is going to pick off one of the Stalkers, but able to delay that command center just a little bit, which is always nice. JYP electing to go for his third base in a much safer location here. You see some Protoss electing to do this, other Protoss going for much more difficult to defend expansion in this location. Reason for that being, as the game moves on, it does leave them with one very safe expansion, which can factor into some of the longer games when your opponents have mined out many of the other locations or are mining those locations, or just that the mobile armies make it quite difficult to defend. It does give you an option to take a nice safe base very close to your production where you can defend it quite easily. Now we have 2-2 on the way now for JYP, as well as extended thermal lance. First Colossi on the way. Don't currently have any Vikings in play or in production, so these first Colossi might make themselves very cost effective, though we will see if MMA not actually spotting them with that scan. Colossus still hiding here on the high ground. Always a good idea to keep these tucked away till you need to use them. Otherwise, we'll let MMA know that he'll need to pull back and not engage. It's a very common trick to stash your Colossi or your tech, and then once you get the Terran player to commit on the ramp, bring your Colossi down, force field them in, and try and clean up the army and open an avenue for a nice counterattack. Protoss are very vulnerable in the around about the 11-12 minute mark. Right when, as you can see now, you have the two 1 upgrades almost finished up for our Terran player. We have Stimpack finished up, and the DPS of this Terran force is actually quite terrifying for such a small group. Though JYP actually quite a lot of units on the field. He's going to move out fairly staunchly to try and harass this Terran force, even blinking forward to pick off a Marauder and a Marine. Nice little pick up there. JYP committed to putting on some pressure here. Siege Tank's going to move into a location where it can try and defend the third base. As you can see, another Stargate is in fact going down, going to allow MMA to produce 2 or 4 Vikings at a time. But we can see JYP already transitioning into High Templar tech. High Templar archives almost finished up now, and there we go. I imagine we'll see Storm momentarily, and already transitioning away from this Colossi tech. So very smart choice most Protoss players go with is they drop a Colossi or 2 and force the Terran player to need to produce Vikings to deal with it. And when the Terran player overproduces Vikings, the Protoss player simply cuts the Colossi production and moves on with High Templar, which can do considerable damage with things like Storm on the bio forces. So we have a fairly even game currently. If we check the units lost, it's about 1100 apiece. So in spite of the constant posturing of both these players, there hasn't actually been a whole lot of combat. There are a few High Templar now being warped in around the place, but currently not enough energy to storm. Though there is a big engagement here in the middle of the map. These Vikings are going to force these Colossi back. Oh, nice mass recall there. Mothership getting those Colossi out of that combat before the Vikings could swing in and kill them. See MMA fairly fearlessly pushing forward these Vikings, almost enough to one-shot a Colossus, but not quite. A Colossus on orange health that was damaged in the earlier engagement, but they are picking away fairly readily at the shields, though losing quite a few Vikings because of JYP's Blink Stalker control. So nice defense out of JYP, punishing this aggressive posturing from MMA. The MMA producing quite a few Vikings at a time. More Colossi actually on the way for JYP, which is quite rare, but probably knows a big fight's going down. There's a High Templar not actually able to drop it. Oh, nice fatty Storm there, catching quite a lot of the Marauders and Marines, falling back inside the Photon Overcharged Nexus's range to try and keep safe. MMA actually being forced back just a little bit. Have both players, well, MMA almost maxed out here, but JYP hovering at about 170 supply. Not an easy thing to try and close out the game against Protoss when they have the high ground advantage. So there's a heck of a lot of Zealots. A lot more Zealots than you traditionally want in this engagement. Able to pick off the last of those Vikings, but will allow MMA to produce some more units. These Vikings are going to engage. This Colossi at the back now doing a lot of damage now that there's no Vikings to be aware of. High Templar going to morph into an Archon after storming. A few more High Templar perhaps would make JYP feel a little bit safe. We have MMA moving back, and more Colossi on the way for JYP. Can see that there aren't many Vikings on the field. Oh, this Marauder providing a bit of harassment. Big warp in of Zealots off this pylon here is doing quite a bit of damage to the reinforcements. Is delaying this command center that's been established here. How much damage was done in that counterattack? We actually only 2 workers killed, but still forcing MMA back. Actually going to town now in the main base. We can see the workers killed rapidly rising out. 10 workers killed total there, so going to force MMA well back into his base. And nice form out of JYP here, though. Can't help but think he's too Zealot heavy in this composition. He morphed in a lot of Zealots to be able to hold the line, but now he's stuck with his Ghost. Nice pickup, always a great pickup when you can catch those juicy Ghosts, but he is almost backed into a corner. These Marauders are going to punish those units that are caught there in the base. Almost able to take out the Archons. One of those times. Oh, concussive shells is in play, able to pick off that Archon. By the way the Archon was moving, couldn't quite tell whether concussive shell was there or not. Warp Prism is continuing to be a pest. We have a drop in the main base from MMA. This drop doing a lot of damage. Big storm there from these Templars, and they're going to warp into an Archon here in front of this force, but MMA is just going to jet out and go for the low ground here. Mothership doing a little bit of damage. It is going to get picked off by these Marines quite quickly. Only one more Marine. Will it take out the Mothership? Or would have helped if these Zealots had sprung into action a little bit quicker. These Marauders sandwiched up quite nicely against this mineral line is going to make it very difficult for JYP to swing out. It seems like most of the main army of JYP has been cleaned up here. Little pockets of resistance through MMA's base, but MMA actually moving out now with a considerable force. Both our players down to 127 supply, and fairly even game out of both these players. So persistent back and forward and nice harass. MMA getting that fairly large doom drop into the main base did help him distract JYP just enough to take the pressure off. So we have the Templar Archives being forced to rebuild. Nice snipe there from MMA. Does make it a bit difficult for JYP to try and hold against the large Bioforce. Big stim they're going to be able to take down this Nexus, and that is going to hurt the income of JYP. Nice pickup, able to save most of those nice blink forward there, able to kill quite a few of the medevacs. So both these players just showing great moves here on Akelon Waste. I'm going to drop and heal up these units. Now it is a supply advantage for JYP for the first time in quite some time. It's actually four bases to 3 for a moment there. This fourth base of MMA being repetitively harassed. JYP doing a great job of consistently hindering MMA, but MMA is going to swing back in here and be able to do a lot of damage with these Marauder counterattacks. These 4 medevacs just going to keep these Marauders going all day long. There are 2 Dark Templar here are going to be able to pick away some of these Marauders. Big counterattack into the third base of MMA. Things are looking rather grim for MMA, but Vikings and Bioforce here going to be able to force the Protoss back out. Still very heavy Zealot composition, but able to pick off that fourth base of JYP's for the second time. This Zealot Archon Force starting to look quite terrifying. 3/3 upgrades finish for both our players, and both these armies posturing out. The Archons and Colossi are the main damage dealers in this force, but this Marine Marauder ball is just all DPS. So we'll see if these Zealots are able to tank enough of the damage, or whether they'll just melt away in the face of so much bio. More ghosts are on the way. A few EMPs might well equalise this in MMA's favour. Nice storm there on the ramp is going to force the disengage. Archons here able to do a lot, but the Zealots actually caught behind the Archons in a really bad angle to try and engage on. You see those Marauders just slamming into the force stim here. Going to pick off another Archon and a Colossi. It's a great angle for MMA to be engaging on. Stuck in the choke point there momentarily, but luckily no sentries there to capitalise on it. JYP in full retreat here, but the Marauder's able to slow these units, pick off the Colossi. Another great pickup for MMA. His micro is just breaking down JYP here in this crucial engagement. JYP's looked so good throughout this battle. Chargelot's able to do a lot of damage. This army almost stimmed to death, picking off some of those medevacs, and it looks like JYP actually now on the front foot. It's just back and forth game between these 2 great Korean players. Dark Templar high in the midst of the army, up to 5 kills now. MMA starting to muster enough force. MMA forced a GG out of that game, so looks like JYP will take that set of games, and just great play out of JYP, able to defeat MMA, who's just been in such great form in 2013, so big well done to JYP. Really great back and forth game between both these players. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. That was just a great example of the versatility and action-packed game that is Protoss vs Terran game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We will be casting much more of Dreamhack Winter here on the channel over the coming days. Going to be casting 2 or 3 games every day and uploading them. So hope you guys are in the Christmas spirit and ready to watch some Starcraft. So go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, and you'll get free updates as we update these videos. So thanks guys, appreciate you taking the time to tune in. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you in the next cast.